The governor of Lagos State, the man who has done tremendously well. God bless you, and he has given back to the consolidator, Akiwumi Ambode. His Excellency, you're welcome to 2015 May Day.
The challenges that face labor here in Nigeria are not different from the challenges that face labor in many other parts of the world. Healthcare, quality of life, cost of living, transportation, pension, and so on and so forth. For those of you who have followed the British elections, and if you haven't, there's still an opportunity. These are all that the debates center around. Indeed, there is a Labour-formed government that was voted out of power 5 years ago and that is seeking to come back. And even in a Labour-held government, things were not at El Dorado. So let us be clear that the problems are not unique to us. But what is different? Perhaps let me deal with what is the same. What is the same here, as it is the same everywhere in the world, is that every worker wants a better deal. Every worker wants better working hours. Every worker wants better welfare, better wages, and better working environment. So that's the same. And all over the world, there has not been the end of that aspiration. It is an aspiration that will continue. What has differed from place to place is the progress that has been made in some places and the distance that needs to be traveled in some other places. Let me again make the point which I've made before, that it is not in all cases that the Nigerian worker is underpaid. It is not in all cases. There are some sections of Nigerian workmen that are paid very, very competitive wages, sometimes more than what even their contemporaries in other parts of the world are paid. But there are other places also where the Nigerian worker is underpaid. And I think we must understand that. So for me, how do we get a better life? I have made the point here, and I will repeat it again, that we must look more at those things that take away the disposable income of the Nigerian worker. We must focus on them. There are some things that the Nigerian worker does not need to pay for that is currently paying for. If we take them away, then perhaps there may be a better deal. And one of those things is electricity. I have heard you talk about it. Now, every worker that generates his own electricity is spending money that he could have used for something else. We have done the calculation and we see that the average cost of generating 1 kilowatt hour of electricity is about 12 naira 72 kobo, subject to tariff changes that may have occurred. But the cost of doing the same thing privately on your own is about 48 naira per kilowatt hour. Buying fuel, buying petrol, buying diesel. So if we take that away, instead of spending 48 naira, you will actually be spending 12 naira. So for 1 kilowatt hour, you will actually be saving about 36 naira to generate 1 kilo. Now we've done some mathematics and calculations. We see that close to 500,000 naira can be saved by somebody who lives in a small one room and a parlor in a year if there's regular power. Now, we spend that money without knowing. We spend it, we earn it in all sorts of ways. So for me, one of the things we must do then is to ask ourselves, if we know this problem, why have we not tackled it together? But what have we done? Whenever this cost of living benefit is taken away by generating self-electricity, what do? Instead of attacking the problem, because we now know what the problem is, but what remedy do we put to it? We want higher wages. That's what we have done. Let's be honest. We have run away from the problem. So we are now looking for band-aid. Give me more money. And every time, the question to ask is, has it solved the problem? Has it? You know why it hasn't solved the problem? Every time you get an increased wage, you can't get it in secret. So once government announces that your wages have gone up, you know what happens? NURTW will raise the cost of transportation. Those in the food and beverage will raise the cost of Milo and Bonvita. And you know what happens? We go around in a musical chair. That is what I have seen. I may be wrong. So we have what I call here an unending cycle of gain and loss. Gain and loss. The question to ask is this sustainable? Do we want to continue like this? Let no one be in doubt that I believe in the best wage and the best working conditions for the Nigerian worker. But whatever we get will be a function of what we produce. We cannot share, we cannot harvest without planting and without producing. Now, when wages rise, we go and negotiate wage increases. I've seen wage increases negotiated by up to 40%. Indeed, when we raise minimum wage for the lowest paid Nigerian worker, we raise it from 10,000 to 18,000 naira. If my arithmetic is correct, that's an 80% increase. Now, when the wages go up by 80%, does the national income rise by 80%? So, there's going to be a mismatch somewhere. And that is why perhaps we have seen in some states that the promises then don't get fulfilled. Then what happened? Because we took what was unreal. That's the honest truth. That is the honest truth. So as we go into negotiations, what I see across the world, 5%, 2.5% gradually, but not 40%. There is no 40% revenue increase. So where are we going to pay this money from? So let's think about this. Because the question to ask is, if we have 40% increases, is that part of some of the reason, apart from other reasons like power, why young people can't get into work? Because those who are at work have taken 80%. And we have a lot of graduates waiting on the queue. Is this model sustainable? For me, we must find a solution. It's not a we and you. It's an us thing. All of us must sit down. Those of you who follow international labor development and economics are familiar with the Greek solution. Government became ultimately the largest employer and eventually it collapsed. What is our national unemployment rate? I think it's about 24%. Some European nations are at 50% today. So we are not the worst, but we can be a lot better. If we solve the power problem, how many more people will get work? Many. So it seems to me that now that we have all voted for change, our attitude and our strategy must change. This is the only way that we will experience change for the better in our lives. There will not be change if labor does not participate. Labor must stop fighting. I've read that anthem and I've read that anthem again and again. And it's all about fight. But you are part of this structure. So stop fighting a structure you are part of. Be a part of making that structure work. Indeed, let us ask ourselves, is there one strike, one dispute that has not ended on the negotiation table? Is there one? So why don't we stay there for longer? Is there any limit to how long you can negotiate? So, for me, labor must resolve to sacrifice. Labor must resolve to participate. Labor must resolve to be a part of the solution. Labor must resolve not to be a part of the problem. Labor must choose negotiation and dialogue over strikes and lockouts. Labor must resolve that the strike must be a last and most resultant resort, only when everything has failed. Why is this important? I asked one of my assistants to conduct a survey of strikes that have taken place in Nigeria between 2007 and 2014. It's not a very comprehensive survey, it just went on the newspapers because a more detailed survey will reveal more. But let me share with you what the very small survey showed. It showed that between 2007 and 2014, and this is why you see that it's not a detailed strike, it's not a detailed survey. Between 2007 and 2014, we had 30 strikes. And you know we had more than that. Yes, you know we had more than that. But all sorts of unions, NLC, TUC, national, state, in Benue, Pengasan, Nupeng, NMA, Johesu, ASU, SANU, NASU, NAT, NUT, Koesu, ASU, and so on. In total, of those 30 strikes, 1,279 days of productive work was lost. That's what we lost. And that's a very small sample of what was lost to Nigeria. Now let me try and dimension what that can mean, assuming that that took place in Lagos. It didn't take place in Lagos, it took place in many parts. Lagos was involved too. But if Lagos alone lost 1,279 days, let me translate it to money for you. This state generates an IGR of approximately 20 billion every month. So every day is about 600 million a day that Lagos generates. 600 million naira. So if you strike for 1,279 days, Lagos would lose 852 billion naira. So for those days, so imagine all the money that was lost because we didn't work. Now imagine what it would have done in your lives. But you know what? We can't wind back those days. They are gone forever. Today, 10 a.m., May 1st, 2015, in our lives will never happen again. It's gone. So what we didn't do this morning, we cannot do later in the evening. Why is this important? It is important because I want to make it very clear that there is nothing wrong with strikes. I have nothing against strikes. The case I am making is that there must be a very reluctant last resort when everything has failed. Now, and I want to make this point publicly because some things have been in the public domain about people not being paid for going on strike. That there's a policy. There's no such policy. It's a law. You see, as I said, there's nothing wrong with strikes, but everything is wrong with deploying the wrong solution to a clearly identified problem. We want to generate electricity, not so. Is strike the way to do so? That's the point I'm making. We want to create more jobs, right? Do we create more jobs by going on strike? So let's look at the options. Somebody has a headache and you want to chop off his head. It won't solve the headache. So for me, for all of us, we must understand the nature of strikes, both the leaders of the union and the members of the union. Strikes are regulated by law. they have consequences. Production stops. That's one consequence. So we lose money. The other consequence is that those who go on strike will not be paid for the period that they were on strike. That's a consequence. And I will tell you why. Also, during the period that they are on strike, that period is not counted for the purpose of calculating their period of service or for calculating their entitlements and their benefits, whether it is for promotion or for pensions. Let every member of organized union know this fact. This is not a policy of Lagos State. It is not Governor Fashola's policy. It is the law of Nigeria made by the National Assembly. Let's understand that. So if we all know what is right and what is wrong, then it is easier to have very, very robust, honest and sincere labor relations. Indeed, you will find out that if strikes are conducted in accordance with the law, they will not last for more than 48 hours because the employer will know that something serious is going on. But why have I done all of this today? It's simply to challenge us to review our strategy for a better life. I hope that we will all reflect and we will embrace change in order to change the working conditions of Nigerian workers